first point we're going to measure off from is, I guess we'll do right where that transition is. So just stay on that side of it. Right there.
All right.
So let's go over to the metric side. The dark side.
The dark side of metrics.
Okay.
We're here to help you.
7090.
Okay, 7089.
88, just kidding.
Back. 7088 divided by 2. Our center point is 3544.
So that's 716.
Haha. Okay, so half of 7167 is 3583.5.
523.
The other night, just before we left the tent, we went through the trouble of bringing in 2 of our main bulkheads, which we keep stored outside just because really we don't have space for them in here, which is fine, and managed to get them under the door of the front of the tent and positioned so that we have one under the bridge deck and one above the bridge deck right now. But with that MDF board that Matt cut, now we can now we can start tracing and cutting the doors. So we've already gone through and done our measurements, so we found the center line for the entire bulkhead.
Alright, so it's a little bit off, just slightly. You can see kind of my mark there. So hold that right at the mark.
Okay. I got it. And we also took our measurements from top to bottom. I am on the center line. And used a straight edge, so we should know where the door is going to be placed right now. Matt is just about to bolt it down so that he can cut it out. Right now we have it matched up exactly with the line. Matt's going to drill it in place to make sure it goes nowhere.
Next part about foam core panels that you're going to finish later is you can use them as mounts for cleats, for anything, you know, and that way we don't worry about things moving around.
And now that we have the door in place, we don't have to worry about it moving around as we use the router to actually cut that portion out and make our door. And I have also taken some other boards to put them underneath and give extra support, because once we slide that out a little bit further so that Matt's router doesn't come in contact with that beam under there, it is no longer going to be supported by the beam down there.
So we'll see how this works out. I do not have a plunge router base for this guy, so I'm going to have to kind of dig into the initial start and then trace it around, but it's foam with a little bit of fiberglass on it. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. And worst case scenario, it's getting covered by trim later on, so we can fix it.
Matt is going to make a second pass through with the router, which is why it hasn't fallen through the first time, but we do have that line going, so it should just follow the same cut next time around.
Final cut before.
Is it fully separated now?
It is, but I'm going to sweep this up first before I pull it apart.
Okay. And that is our door cutout. I actually ended up propping up right under the door as well, so that when it was cut out, it was going to go crash into the ground. So that's why we didn't get that satisfying bang.
A little fuzzy on the edge.
But it's a door. You know what that is? Adorable.
Nice.
Whew. So definitely need to clean up that edge. A little fuzzy. The problem is the router bit I have is a 1 inch. So 1 inch cutting depth, and then here, this is a little bit larger than 1 inch. It's 1 inch of foam, and then you have the glass on either side, and did not take into account that. Oh well.
It works.
Just a sander on it, grinder on it, and it'll clean it right up. It'll be nice and smooth, and as you can tell, now, you know, the edge is nice and smooth, so it should be easy to finish off all of this. Once we decore it around the outside, fill that back in, at least now the fiberglass part, we can follow that and trace that and make sure that we get a nice square edge.
Yesterday, Matt and I actually took the day off and stayed at our apartment because there was severe weather all day long. It was going to be rainy, humid, and we knew it wasn't going to be beautiful today, but the humidity was supposed to be dropping through the day. We thought we could get some glassing done, but this system, we can feel it in here. Something is coming across the bay. Let's go check it out. Yeah, so not so nice out today. Have to see what we can do with the rest of our time here. After 8 years of the nomadic life, involving crossing oceans in a 34-foot Sabre, refitting an aluminum boat, and then taking that to the Arctic Circle, we're back at it again with a brand new build. This is Matt, and I'm Jessica. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and join us every week as we start our newest project of building a 42-foot catamaran from the ground up. Apologies for the noise. Again, the wind did pick up. There's that storm, but even while that is going to be raging outside, we can utilize our newly adhered deck to do more work up here. So we've got another bulkhead that is going to span across the whole bulkhead number is this? For this bulkhead over on our owner's side on starboard is going to separate the shower from the head, and then on the other side, port, more like the guest hull, is going to be the opening to the V-berth on that side.
Actually, I had that part wrong. This cutout didn't begin the opening to the V-berth in the guest hull, but is actually a support beam that spans across the middle of the bunk. Oops.
And look, it's already got bird poop on it.
Yeah.
Bummer.
So make sure you get it at that same spot right on that corner. The first. Yeah. Okay. So it is 6962.
With the rest of our afternoon, we went through the same steps of measuring the cutouts for the doors on hull number 4, just as we had done earlier for hull number 5. The only change is that in the port hull, instead of a full door getting cut out, it is a support beam that runs overhead in the forward bunk. With a much larger radius for the curve here, we could no longer use the compass we had on the doors, but instead used a pencil on a taut piece of string attached to a pick, measured out on a 250 millimeter radius.
Measure twice, cut once. Matt is going through and getting the radius right now of how many millimeters?
It's 250.
Which our compass does not go that far. So we're working with other measures.
And there's our big arch radius.
Pretty darn good.
The door on the starboard owner's hull is mostly the same as our other two doors, except the bottom few inches are cut off, as this will be the door leading into the shower from our head.
Okay. We have successfully routed out the other door here, which is going to be on the guest hull. And now my job is going to be taking the jigsaw and cutting off the extra little piece of fiberglass that's protruding from the top. Turns out, not a job for the jigsaw, not a job for the oscillating tool, not a job, there's like two others. Basically it came down to a circular saw, and I don't have enough experience with that to feel comfortable testing myself in an area that you really can't mess up, so next time. Turns out there is work for me yet, and even though Matt was one that took the circular saw to clean up the edge here, actually first take that off. I cleaned it up with the circular saw, which means that Matt can now take the router through it to create a space, which, as we did in the other doors, we're going to put that unidirectional fiberglass in there. But that won't be tonight. I think Matt's just gonna get that routed. He finished the doors, and then tomorrow is gonna be fiberglassing with lots of heat pumping through these because it's gonna be like 45 degrees out. Hey there everyone, we are back to answer more questions or your most popular statements from last week's video. And if you remember, that is a week that we tried our hand at unidirectional fiberglass, trying to get that kind of fit into the bulkheads we had routed out. Didn't have that great of success. And there were a lot of helpful comments, but one of the most popular ones was asking if we could just cut out the unidirectional altogether and instead use a like chop strand filler in the trough.
No. The plans call for that, and specifically there's a real reason why they end up doing that. If you use chop strand, of course, the strands are in all different directions and not giving that support that we need. Basically, we need that rigidity within that within those doorways in that area. So unidirectional, definitely the way it goes. We ended up using chop strand mat, which added to the resin to fill in any of the voids or areas that didn't fill up to level on the doorways themselves. So that is kind of a belt and suspenders approach to it. But the unidirectional is very important in that doorway, and that's the reason why we ended up going that route. But again, that's the way pretty much all these like performance, like the Schoening, Granger, and all that, they all do that same process in the doorway.
If you're building a boat, you're going to go through it.
If you're building a performance cat, you're going to go through it because that is definitely the proper way to do it.
And then let's see, another popular question is, or actually more following in on that, as we had mentioned in last week's video, once we tried our hand at it and weren't too successful, we did call Max Cruz. They gave us a bunch of great ideas for what they do in the factory. So it's kind of like a cable.
Yeah, it's actually, they use plastic U-channels that are something that you can easily buy. A lot of times they're used for running cables or wires under a computer desk or whatever it is, just to kind of like cover them and hide that. But we found one that had the right width for the main bulkhead area. And so we purchased that, and it actually did a good job for the most part.
And you'll see that in the next
episode.
All right. And then I think there weren't too many other things. That was obviously the main topic. Mm-hmm. When I was using the compass to get the radius, I think there was a close-up of me measuring that out, and it was compass, not caliper, I know.
Yeah, as she was doing it, I told her, I'm like, someone's going to say something about this, because yeah, that is the proper way to do it, is to measure starting off at the 10 millimeters or 10 centimeters or 1 inch position, instead of relying on that metal edge. But
I did do that. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I should probably do it more.
Yes, this is a learning experience for both of us, but that is one that is very important. I agree.
And I think that was it, but it was so nice to hear all of you say what a great team Matt and I have been together. I hope that shows after 21 years together in a relationship, and 2 years spent doing the refit of our last boat. So we've kind of been in these situations before where, you know, tensions can kind of get high. We know how to work through it. So,
but she's my best friend. So
the best friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's why I think it works out well for us.
No worries about the build, but it's really nice to hear you guys say what a great team we are. So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you again next week.
Give me your freedom. Whoa, yeah, me to pieces. Yeah, I need it. Once you're pandemonium, life is so easy. Whoa, you love me to pieces. Yeah, I need it. Once you're pandemonium. for the